Have you ever looked at the US stock market and asked yourself, why hasn't it crashed yet? Because if you really look at the numbers, the charts, and the signals all around our economy, you'll see it. Everything feels stretched to the limit. It's like a guitar string pulled too tight. It hasn't snapped yet, but you can feel the tension humming underneath, warning that something's about to give. A few years ago, when I was still working at an investment fund in New York, a young analyst once asked me, why is the market still going up if the real economy isn't getting better? I told him something I still believe today. The market doesn't run on logic anymore. It runs on belief. And that's exactly what's happening right now. We're living in an economy where stock prices, housing prices, even the value of the dollar itself, are all built on one collective belief that the government, the Federal Reserve, the system, will never let it all fall apart. But belief isn't a foundation. It's a fragile illusion. And when belief starts to crack, all the beautiful numbers on the screen can lose meaning overnight. Today, the total U.S. stock market is worth more than twice the size of the real economy. That might sound abstract. So imagine this. You own a small business that makes $100,000 a year, and someone offers to pay over $200,000 just to buy your brand. Even though your profits haven't grown, your customers aren't increasing, and your costs keep rising. Would that make sense? That's exactly what's happening right now. The market isn't priced on performance anymore. It's priced on expectation. And most of that expectation is built on borrowed money. The U.S. government collects about $5 trillion in taxes every year, but it spends at least $2 trillion more than it has. That gap is filled with debt that flows through banks, through corporations, and ultimately into the stock market. It makes everything look fine, like pain covered by painkillers, but not cured. It's a temporary comfort, not real health. Now, I know this might sound pessimistic, but that's not why I'm saying it. I'm saying it because it's the truth, a truth most people choose not to face. The American economy, once built on productivity, innovation, and hard work, is now floating on a sea of public debt, inflation, and fragile confidence. Behind Wall Street's record numbers lies a very different story on Main Street. People paying more for rent, gas, and groceries, workers clocking extra hours just to stay afloat, while corporations report record profits. And so we ask, if the economy's doing so well, why is life getting harder? Because what we're living through isn't real growth. It's an illusion of wealth created by a weakening dollar. When the dollar loses value, prices rise. When prices rise, company revenues look bigger. And when revenues grow, the market looks strong. But you're not richer. You're just paying more for the same things. That's how this system works. Wealth quietly moves upward while the bill is left at the bottom. I've seen this cycle before. In 2000, when the tech bubble burst, and again in 2008, when the financial crisis shattered the American dream. Each time people said, this time is different. But it never is. Only the surface changes. The suits, the slogans, the apps. But underneath, the same forces of greed, illusion, and blind faith keep repeating. So today, I want us to be honest with each other. Not to spread fear, but to understand. To understand what's really holding this fragile system together. To understand why banks, corporations, and even governments need you to keep believing. And most importantly, to understand how to prepare for the moment that belief begins to break. You know, the strangest thing about the American economy right now isn't the numbers, it's the feeling. Everything looks fine. Stores are open, the stock market's climbing, and the Fed keeps saying everything's under control. But if you listen closely, you can hear the cracks forming beneath the surface. People are living off credit cards more than ever before. Student loans, mortgages, car payments, they're piling up like a mountain the younger generation doesn't know how to climb. And yet stocks keep rising, as if none of this pain even exists. I once said at a conference in Chicago, we no longer live in a labor economy, we live in a liquidity illusion. Every year, the U.S. government injects trillions into the system, not because it wants to, but because it has to. If they stop spending, the wheels of the economy stop turning. If they stop borrowing, the markets collapse. It's a loop with no exit, where growth survives only because we keep borrowing to fuel the illusion of growth. And look, I don't blame the government. I get it. They're trying to keep the ship from sinking, at least until the next election cycle. But what's the cost? A weaker dollar, shrinking purchasing power, and an entire generation slowly losing faith that they'll ever live better than their parents. You might ask, so why does the market keep going up? The answer lies in what I call the illusion of liquidity. When the government overspends, that money doesn't just sit there. It flows into corporations, into Wall Street, into stocks. Prices rise not because companies are doing better, but because there's too much money chasing the same assets. It's not real growth. It's inflated prices. Think about it this way. You hold a $100 bill. Last year, that bought you a full grocery cart. This year, it buys you half. But the store reports 50% higher revenue. Looks like business is booming, right? But in reality, nothing changed. You're just paying more for the same basket of goods. That's the illusion of inflation. It tricks us into believing the economy's healthy, while our purchasing power quietly erodes. What worries me most is the growing divide between Wall Street and Main Street. Today, the richest 10% of Americans own over 90% of all stocks. So when the market goes up, it's their wealth that multiplies, not yours. Meanwhile, most working people are paying more for rent, groceries, and gas, just trying to keep their heads above water. This system runs on a harsh kind of logic. The prosperity of a few is built on the exhaustion of the many. I once met an Uber driver in San Francisco, a former software engineer. When his company downsized, he thought it was temporary. A year later, he still hadn't found another job with a similar salary. Rent had gone up 30%. He told me, "It feels like the whole system's designed for me to lose." And honestly, he wasn't wrong. Banks love it when you borrow. They love your credit cards, your car loans, your second mortgage. Every time you pay interest, they profit. And when you can't pay, they take your assets, sell them off, and start the cycle again. It's not just a financial system. It's a wealth extraction machine, quietly moving resources from the many to the few. And the irony is, every time the economy starts to slow, the Fed steps in to calm the crowd. Don't worry, we'll cut rates. We'll inject liquidity. We'll save the market. But they can't save everyone. They can only save the system. And that system, sadly, isn't built to protect ordinary people. So the cycle continues. More government spending, more Fed liquidity, more headlines saying markets hit new record highs. And regular Americans? They just keep grinding, trying to survive an economy that feels more expensive with each passing month. But history has a sense of balance. Every bubble bursts, no matter how long it's delayed. We saw it in 2000. We saw it in 2008. And now we're living through a new chapter of the same old story. I know, hearing all of this might feel a little heavy, but I want you to remember something. The truth isn't meant to scare us. It's meant to wake us up. We can't control the markets. We can't stop the Fed from printing money. And we can't change the way this system operates. Not overnight. But what we can control is how we respond. We can choose to see things clearly, to tell the difference between what's real and what's illusion. I still believe that within every crisis, there's opportunity. When others panic, the calmest minds see the path forward. When the crowd clings to headlines and promises that everything will be fine, the wise prepare for the moment when it isn't. I've lived through 3 major U.S. recessions, and here's what I've learned. It's not the smartest or the richest who survive. It's the ones who adapt the fastest. The ones who are willing to face reality instead of holding on to comforting illusions. If you're someone working hard, paying rent, trying to save in an economy where everything feels expensive, start small. Understand where your money is really going. Don't let your emotions be manipulated by markets or media. And most importantly, invest in what inflation can't take away: your knowledge, your skills, your adaptability. I once asked a friend of mine, a major investor in Boston, "Are you afraid of the next crisis?" He smiled and said, "No, I'm only afraid of not learning anything from the last one." That line has stayed with me for years. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much the market crashes, no matter how much the dollar loses value, the only thing that truly keeps us steady is wisdom and composure. And maybe that's exactly what America and all of us need most right now. Not another stimulus package, not another few points of growth, but a moment of clarity to understand that real prosperity doesn't come from printing more money, it comes from rebuilding trust on something real, value, work, and faith in each other. I'm not saying a crash is certain. What I'm saying is every system has its limits. And when you see those limits approaching, don't be afraid. Take a deep breath and prepare. Because throughout history, the most chaotic moments have always been the birthplace of new orders. Maybe we're at the end of one cycle, but also at the edge of a new beginning, where those who understand the game will be the ones to rewrite the rules. And if you're watching this video right now, chances are you're one of those people. Someone who seeks to understand, not just listen. Someone who wants to prepare, not just hope. And to me, that's already the beginning of true freedom. Freedom from fear and from illusion. Thank you for staying until the end. If this video made you think, share your thoughts below. I genuinely want to hear your perspective because economics isn't just about numbers. It's about people. Your story, my story, and the story of all of us.